Hey folks, well, I'm Dave Wessels. I'm the prof for 3 of the 5 sections of Comp Sci 161 this term. I'm pretty much putting these videos together for the sake of anybody who's self-isolating or otherwise unable to make our regular lectures, and hopefully I'll be seeing you all in person most of the time this term. Pretty much in this session, I just want to go through the administrative aspects of the course for this term. So, the lectures and the labs and any COVID stuff and how the assessment's going to work and all that kind of thing. So, that is the current plan. I'm going to ditch my little talking head in the corner here first and yeah, just kind of babble away for a bit. So the idea is this is picking up where the first programming course left off. So most of you will be coming through from CSCI 160, right? So we're going to pick up pretty much where that left off. I'll back up a little bit. I'm assuming that the topics towards the very end of the course maybe didn't sink in quite as well and you didn't get as much of a chance to practice with them. So we'll back up and recap some of that material. But I'm going to assume that most of what was given in 160 you've got a pretty good handle on. So again, I'll do a little bit of a review and refresher for the first couple of weeks, and then we'll dive into new material. So we're going to spend a lot of time this semester on dynamic data structures, so on things like linked lists and stacks and queues and trees and other different creations. We'll spend some time getting into abstract data types, and we'll have a pretty major focus this term on object-oriented programming, objects and classes. And so we'll get into that probably 5 or 6 weeks into the term and spend most of the rest of the term covering that kind of material. We will get into more on searching and sorting algorithms and some of the different techniques we can use, so we'll dive into that a little bit deeper. And I am going to spend a little bit more time this term on some of the tools that make software development easier. So we'll talk about make and ways to automate compilation. We'll talk about version control and Git. We'll talk about debuggers and GDB. Most of the specific tools that we use, the features are the same as in any other tool for the same effect. So it should give you a pretty good grounding for whatever tools you actually wind up using in the future. We'll get into a few miscellaneous bits and pieces of C++ that you might not have seen last semester. So lots of different just side notes that help as a programmer. Again, we're going to be continuing with C++, so we'll pretty much pick up where things left off in that realm as we get into things next week. So, contact information. Again, I'm Dave Wessels. Email address is david.wessels@viu.ca. Feel free to fire me an email. I do have I do have a phone extension that I almost never remember to check, and I only just realized that not only do I forget to check my phone messages, I forgot to even put my phone information on here. It's extension 2436 if you're on campus trying to get a hold of me. My office hours. This semester, given the current state of Omicron, we'll do office hours through Zoom. The official times are Thursday 1 to 2, Friday 12:30 to 1:30. Feel free to email me for a different time if those don't work for you. Again, I should be able to clear a fair bit of time on Mondays or Wednesdays if anybody needs to meet on those days. All right. The Zoom information, the ID and the passcode, I've posted on the VIU Learn page for the course. So it's in the, I guess, the first or second announcement that's posted on that page. Let's see. I'm going to give you the rooms that were officially listed in first, and then I'm going to talk about what's happening in the first 4 weeks, because we're going to move to new, bigger rooms temporarily to try and let us distance a little bit better. So the official registrations, we've got our lectures Tuesdays and Thursdays. We've got 90-minute sessions starting at 11:30 in Building 180, Room 238. And then we've got a 1-hour lecture session on Friday in the morning from 10:30 to 11:30. And then you're each registered in one of the different labs. So Fridays either at 12:30, 1:30, or 2:30, and they're each 1-hour labs. And again, the official room is 315-102, but for the first 4 weeks, we're going to move into a different, bigger lab. Announcements and quizzes will be done through VIU Learn, as most of you probably got some experience with that last semester. Now, I mentioned the room changes. So for the first 4 weeks, given that we've got this bit of an Omicron wave going on right now, we would have been fairly tightly packed in the rooms that we were scheduled in. I think our lecture room is built to hold 49 people, and we've got 52. So we'd be crammed in there pretty tightly, which I'm not crazy about given the current situation. So I have booked us new rooms for the first 4 weeks of the course. So the Tuesday lecture will be held in building 250, room 125. Thursday in 180, room 134. Friday in 200, room 203. So we're going to be bouncing around a lot. And then the Friday labs will be in building 250, room 115. And again, that's for the first 4 weeks, so through February 5th. Those rooms are roughly twice as big as our originally scheduled room, so it should give us the opportunity to distance fairly well. Unfortunately, they're not available for the rest of the semester, but at least for those first 4 weeks when hopefully this is at its worst, we can spread out a little bit. And then again, after those 4 weeks, we'll go back to our regularly scheduled rooms. So I will try and remember to send announcements out about those periodically, just to remind folks when we, particularly when we switch back to the original rooms. So, course content. If you hit the course webpage, so csci.viu.ca/wesselsd courses CSCI 161, if you hit that URL, there's links there for the labs. There's links there for the lectures, including material for all of the videos, the slides for all the lectures, videos for all the labs, review material for the quizzes, links to other helpful bits and pieces. So pretty much everything is available there. The only thing that really won't be done through that page are the course announcements that'll go through VIU Learn and the course quizzes themselves that you'll take through VIU Learn. Everything else will be on that page. In terms of distributing labs and getting you to submit them again later, we'll be using a different process than we did last semester. So we're actually going to be using Git version control tool to distribute them and submit them. But we'll go through that process in the first week of labs. So we'll get into that in the labs themselves. Assessment, 5 labs, 6% each, roughly every 2 weeks-ish. So 30% of your total mark is on the labs. We'll have 5 quizzes that you'll take in the lab using VIU Learn, and those will be 4% each, so 20% total. I'll have a programming project that I'll release about halfway through the course, and that's worth 10% and is due more or less at the end of the term. And you can also use your project mark to replace one lower lab mark. So if you're assuming you do well on the project, you can boost one of those labs if one of the labs didn't go well. Final exam is the other 40%. And again, the final exam can replace one lower quiz mark. So you can get rid of your worst quiz by doing better on the final. Again, the labs are going to be roughly every 2 weeks, and quizzes roughly every 2 weeks. First lab starts this week, Friday the 14th, and the first quiz will be on February the 4th, again, in your lab session. Prerequisites. Again, you need a minimum C- from your first programming course, say CSCI 160 for most of you. I'm generally not willing to waive this. The chances of getting through 161 if you aren't strong in 160 are pretty poor, and generally it's just setting a student up for failure to bring them in with anything lower than a C-. Even a C- is pretty sketchy, right? You've got to be prepared to work very hard to catch up and stay on track if you're coming in from 160 with a C-. In terms of the wait lists, I don't think this is going to be much of a problem this term. I think we've only got 4 or 5 students on the wait list right now, and they're spread across a couple of sections. I can after the official waitlist period ends, I can add a couple of seats per section, so I am pretty sure we'll be able to get everybody that's currently on the waitlist in. So hopefully that will go well. No-shows, we are supposed to deregister anybody who doesn't show up. So for that first lecture session on January 11th, you should be there and sign the sign-in sheet so I know that you're attending. If you're not there, if you're actually watching this video because you couldn't come to that lecture, then please email me as soon as possible, david.wessels@viu.ca, to let me know that you are still planning on attending, you do want to be part of the course, and I won't deregister you. All right, again, the idea is lectures are in person. I'll make videos like this available for the sake of folks who are self-isolating. And the URL is, again, through that 161 webpage of mine. And there's a page there, vidres.html, that has a list of all of the videos, all of the slides, and some supporting material. And they're broken down by week and by topic, so you should be able to find whichever sections you're actually interested in. Obviously, the content on the videos isn't going to be exactly the same as in person, because in person, people are asking me questions, I'm going through and explaining what's going on, announcements and things. So you should make sure that if you're not attending the lectures themselves, you should make sure you touch base with someone who was there, double check their notes, but you should get most of the content through the videos themselves if you need to. Quizzes, again, roughly every 2 weeks, run through VIU Learn, starting, I think, February 4th. You'll take the quiz in person, in the lab. In your registered lab session, you'll be given 40 minutes for each quiz. It's due by the end of the lab. You will be able to use the lab software in there, so use things like the compiler and experiment with your code, write code while you're answering the quiz. But they are strictly an individual exercise, right? You can't communicate with anybody else while you're doing this. Generally speaking, I'll require people to be in person in the lab when they're taking the quiz. If you are self-isolating, get in touch with me ahead of time, and generally I'll give you permission to take the quiz from home. Labs, again, held in person. I'll post video versions of the lab discussions for anybody that's needing to self-isolate. We'll distribute the labs and bring them back in using this version control tool Git. But again, I'll go through the process for that in the labs in the first week. Labs start this week, Friday the 14th, and again, do roughly every 2 weeks. They're strictly individual effort, no collaborative efforts on this. Late penalties, 10% if you're kind of less than a day late, 20% for the day after that, 40% for the day after that. And I'll set up Git to cut it off after that, so no submissions after that 72 hours past the deadline. Let's see. There will also be the course programming project. Again, I'll release that around halfway through the semester, and you'll have more or less until the end of the term to complete that. It's going to involve the use of classes and OO. I'll come up with some kind of a variation on linked list data structures to get you to get some additional practice with that, and see if we can come up with something a little interesting to work on. Again, they're strictly an individual effort, same late penalties as the lab, same distribution and submission mechanism, and again, we'll talk about those in the labs. And as I mentioned earlier, you can use your project mark to replace one lower lab mark. So I think that was pretty much it for the administrative side of things. I will get into more of the actual content of the course in our other videos. Email me if you have questions, or catch me on the Discord. And yeah, we should be in good shape. Hope it's a good term.